Maritime Made on Eastlink TV, presented by Nova Scotia Business Inc., because great things are happening.
The one and only classical flute maker in Canada can be found in Head of St. Margaret's Bay in Nova Scotia. Flutes made by this master flute maker are played in symphony orchestras all over the world. And right here at home by Symphony Nova Scotia's own principal flutist, Patricia Creighton. It takes master flute maker David Wimberly over 1 month to custom make a flute in solid silver or rose gold. Today, the flute maker is making a handmade head joint for a flute. As handmade flutes are expensive, many a flutist will upgrade their flute with a head joint of the highest quality to elevate the overall sound of their flute. That's because the head joint is where the magic starts. The head joint begins with a riser and a lip plate. That's where the flutist places their mouth and blows across the embouchure hole. The riser is measured with a caliper. The fit of the riser is checked inside the lip plate. These pieces will fit together over the embouchure hole. The riser is checked against the silver tube that is the main structure of the head joint. Using pliers, the shape is adjusted slightly for the best fit. A few more adjustments are made.
Now the riser is measured relative to the lip plate. Sanding for depth, fit, and aesthetics, the riser is worked against the sanding wheel. Next, the riser is polished and checked against the lip plate again. The flute maker is working to accomplish the best possible fit at the right depth. The lip plate and riser are clamped in place for soldering. Flux is brushed on the surface. The soldering torch is lit and the silver pieces are heated. Pieces of soldering wire are dropped between the two pieces and heated evenly as the solder starts to flow. The flute maker quenches the pieces in water, then places them in a liquid to remove the flux and some of the discoloration. This liquid is called the pickle. The silver tubes arrive in a basic form and need to be pulled into the proper shape. A mandrel is placed inside the tube and is loaded into an arbor press. Using over 2,000 pounds of force, the tube forms to the outside of the mandrel. Each tube is engraved for Wimberly Flutes by local master goldsmith Don Bell. The diameter of the silver tube is measured precisely to 0.684 of an inch to position the embouchure hole center. Making a scribe on the exact measurement for the embouchure hole and using a caliper, making a scribe where both ends of the tube will be cut. The measurements are double-checked. Using a cutting wheel, he holds the tube and makes a cut at each end. Then, using different wheels, the flute maker works until the cut is flat, even, and smooth. The polishing wheel and a burnishing tool remove any possible rough edges.
Once the lip plate assembly is out of the pickle, it's wire brushed to remove the remainder of the discoloration. It's also inspected using a pick, checking for any gaps in the soldering. Coated wire attaches the lip assembly to a temporary working tube that will support the lip assembly while it's being shaped. This temporary attachment is soldered with a lower heat. A tapered wooden mandrel is placed inside the tube to prevent it from being crushed, and the piece is secured in a vise. Here, the flute maker is working to fine-tune the aerodynamics of the lip plate. The vise bends the silver. The curving is worked with pliers and then a mallet. Now a series of files are used to continue shaping the lip plate assembly. The flute maker is working to use just enough pressure to file, but not enough to leave deep marks in the delicate silver. 600 grit fine sandpaper prepares the surface for buffing. At this stage, increasingly fine buffing wheels are used on the lip plate. Now the temporary tubing is heated and unsoldered from the lip assembly. Applying more heat, the remaining solder is cleaned away. A very soft wire wheel brushing is done next. Then the depth is checked as the work continues on the sanding wheel. The flute maker sands the sides of the lip assembly. This process of tweaking continues until the flute maker is satisfied with the fit. The lip plate is secured in place with covered wire and is soldered into its final position on the silver tubing.
A thorough buffing is the next stage of assembly. Starting with the lip plate, then moving down the tubing, and taking special care of the area around the lip plate, the head joint is completely buffed. Buffing smooths and shines the surface and helps to identify any possible imperfections. Next, the inside of the silver tube is buffed on a machinist's lathe. Buffing compound is applied to the cloth-covered steel rod. Then the tube is run along the spinning rod until there's a smooth finish on the inside. A paper-covered rod is used next to clean the inside of the tube for a nice, shiny finish. Every part of the flute is important, but the lip plate and the embouchure hole are where the magic starts. The embouchure hole begins with a pilot hole. Then the flute maker pushes the drill through the silver. Through a series of intricate steps, the hole is created with exact precision for peak performance acoustics. Using a mirror inserted into the tube, the flute maker checks the inside of the tube. A master gauge measures the angles of the undercut on the front and back, the angles of all the curves, and depth. Once he is assured it fits every gauge, it's time to finish the assembly of the head joint.
A cork is placed in melted beeswax and allowed to soak. The beeswax ensures the cork will never dry out and the head joint will never leak air. Once cork grease is applied to the cork, it's pushed inside the tube into the correct position to balance harmonics and optimize acoustics and performance. The crown is screwed in place and the head joint is finished. Beautiful Wimberly flutes are custom made to order with many distinctive acoustical and ergonomic improvements.